Testily to everyone, and welcome to the lesson 15 of the Intermediate Conversation course. So previously we have been discussing some of the other particles for the past few lessons. So today we're going to introduce a little bit some of the aphorisms. So there are many. And so the more frequently used, the more known ones are introduced today in the lesson. And so let us begin with the first aphorism. So the first one is, so I'll repeat this 3 times. I'll try to recite this as clear and slow as possible. Simtil nib simtil, rebon nam dib simtil. Let me repeat this. Simtil nib simtil, rebon nam dib simtil. Simtil nib simtil, rebon nam dib simtil. So as you can see that while I was doing the reading, in certain syllable, I have exaggerated the sound. That is, I tried to pronounce it with more emphasis on the ending. So this is something that we have discussed both in conversation classes as courses, as well as the reading courses, if some of you have joined me there too. So like I said, the syllable reading, when we do, so we have certain steps on learning how to read. We start from character reading, then we join 3 characters together to form a syllable. So a syllable in Tibetan language is decided by this punctuation, which is a punctuation that separates a word, sometimes a single syllable word, sometimes multiple syllable word, into their portion of syllable. And so the second step of reading is combining a consonant with a vowel, and then afterwards doing the syllable reading, and then joining the syllable to form the word, and then joining the word to form a statement. So this is the manner or the process of improving one's reading. So one should first take time to repeat. So reading, if you want to improve reading, the only way to do it is by repeatedly listening and then reciting. So it's a listen and repeat process. So the more you repeat by listening, the better it gets. So character reading, once you're able to pronounce the character well, then you can go and combine a consonant and a vowel. Once you're able to attain this particular sound, then you can move on to the syllable reading. Then you do syllable reading for a few days or months. And then afterwards, you start doing the word reading. And then afterwards, you start doing the statement reading or line reading. That's the final stage. So some of the more important points in doing the line reading is that many a times we have the particles, and the particles are not only important in terms of understanding the statement, but many a times the particles also indicate as a breaking of a line. So it breaks a line, it creates a pause while reciting it. So therefore, understanding the particle is also a very significant knowledge in terms of learning how to read clearly and how to make those pause while reading an entire line. Okay, so during the syllable reading, you have heard me exaggerating the sound of tel by putting more emphasis at the end. So usually when you read the word simte, what happens is that we make sure that we don't let the sound of the la to roll out too much. So we cut it short. So instead of semtel, if you're reading it as a singular unit, then definitely you can pronounce it, or you can read it as semtel, and you can have that la sound at the end. But when you're reading it as a part of a line, what happens is that the more you add the exaggeration, the less natural becomes the connection between the words and the syllables. It creates an unnatural sound between two junctions or two connections of the word or syllable. So therefore, instead of semtel, we can pronounce it as semte. And just by doing this, what happens is that you have the proper way of connecting the next part. So instead of saying semtel mebe, you can pronounce it as semte mebe. So you see that the line becomes much more smoother. So therefore, when you're doing the syllable reading, definitely make sure that you exaggerate the ends and all the other parts, because it helps you a lot in terms of making your reading clear. But when it comes to the line reading, one must also respect the connection between the two syllables and the words, and to make it as normal, as natural as possible. So being overly exaggerating the syllable, what it does is that it affects that sort of natural fluency while reading it, a natural sound that comes while reading it. It becomes overly exaggerated, and it sounds quite different from what it should sound. And this is one way of improving one's pronunciation, and other is repeating and practicing the sound itself. Okay, so what does this line mean? So this aphorism, simte me besimte, rebonam de besimte. It means worrying where there is no need to worry, meaning someone who is worrying for nothing, someone who is being overly cautious, worrying every time that something might happen when something will not happen, or most probably will not happen, but simply worrying that there is a possibility or a probability that it might happen. So worrying where there is no need to worry. For example, so this is a bit exaggerated example. So for example, going in a bus and then worrying that a meteorite might hit the bus. Definitely there is a probability, there is a possibility. Though it may be a very small probability, but there is. But then it doesn't justify one to be worried about it just because there is a probability of something happening. So that's the reason this particular line or aphorism refers to those. It's a form of advising someone or giving example. It's just saying that someone is overly cautious about something. So worrying where there is no need to worry, like the worry of the rabbit who is worried that the sky might fall down. So now this comes from a more, now this particular example, as you can see, comes from a more traditional aspect of the aphorism. The thing is that an aphorism, so there is the definition here, so I'll read it again there. So let me just brief that explanation. It is a sort of saying or a truthful example that is based on a certain traditional values or a traditional example that is related, that is subjective to a particular group of people, a particular tribe, a particular country or a village, and depends on their habits, their lifestyle, or in some cases the stories that they have. So this one comes from one of the stories, one of the Tibetan story, children's tale. It's about the rabbit that hears a sound when a twig falls in the pond where he was drinking water. And then once he heard the sound, since he was a overly cautious rabbit, he somewhat deduced that the sky was falling down. And so he ran, and then he told everyone he met that, oh, the sky is falling down. I heard it. I heard this piece of sky falling in the pond. So therefore, through that story, we get the moral that it's not always the best to be overly cautious. So the example comes from that very story. So worrying where there is no need to worry, like the worry of the rabbit. And this rabbit is the particular rabbit that is in that story, who is overly cautious and who misinformed everyone, saying that the sky was falling and a piece of it fell in the pond. And he, while he was drinking water, and he was heard the sound. So therefore, we see that this is usually used for people who are overly cautious. So now, example for this. Let me repeat this too. So I'll try to read it as slow and as clear as possible. Rang la kanye kanya me shinto sempe namto Techengi kanye mesar kanye yunhang chegyuni semte mebe semte rubon tepe semte tabureto. So let me repeat this. Rangla kanye kaya meshintu sempe namdo techengi kanye mesar kanye yunhang chegyuni semte mebe semte rubon tepe semte tabureto. Rangla kanye Kanya meshintu sembe namdo techinki kanye mesar kanye yunhang chagyuni semtel mebe semtel rubon nam tebe semtel tabureto. So what does this mean? So rang means self, kanye means problem or worry, kanya means there is none, sempa means mind, namdo means thoughts and doubts, not particularly doubt, more like thoughts. Deche means the great demon or the great devil of mind, the one that steers up everything in the brain, the one that makes up all that story in the mind. Kanya mesar means when there is no problem and when there is no trouble. Yunhang means to appear that there is like worrying where there need not to worry, like the rabbit worrying that the sky might fall down. So to see issues under the influence of great devil of the mind, which is the doubt and those affliction that creates the story and narration in the brain, where there is none. It's like worrying where there is no need to worry, like the worry of the rabbit who is worried that the sky might fall down. So one thing that one must, so this particular aphorism is an advice to those who are overly cautious, those who think about things about things in a very exaggerated manner. This particular aphorism does not in any way tell you that you shouldn't be careful. It just says that one should be discreet about one should be discreet and have a certain ability to deduce it through logical understanding and through valid cognition that something is the way it is, rather than fabricating stories in the mind based on one's assumptions and one's estimations. So therefore, this doesn't mean that one shouldn't be careful. It just means that make sure that the worry is directed towards a situation that needs it and that requires it, and through the deduction by logic and valid cognition. So this is a particular type of aphorism that is given as an example. Okay, so here we have the definition. Tambe ni. So we call it tambe in Tibetan. So tambe ni yulung tang soku shiki rikshung da tsowe treki komshi tang. Let me read it much slower. Tambe ni yulung tang soku shiki rikshung da tsowe treki kumshi tang jewe shigun la kogu. So this is the definition of aphorism. Tambe kashi pe chun je tang kashi ni damwa chi tun chegi yu. He song zang yu long tang sekun min zhawar segun ki tambe min zhawar mangbo yu. Let me repeat this. Tambe ni yu long tang sekun shi ki rikshon tang sowe chue ki kumshi tang jewe shigun la kogu. Tambe kashi pe chun je tang kashi ni damwa chi tun chegi yu. Te song zang yu long tang sekun min zhawar segun ki tambe min zhawar mangbo yu. So, what does it mean? It means that aphorisms are sayings related to the traditional values and lifestyle of people and their community or nation. Some aphorisms are stated as an example, while others function to provide advice. Because of this, there are different communities and countries. There are different communities and countries have different aphorisms. So because we know that there are many different countries and they have different traditional values. Different community under the same nation will have different traditional values, different viewpoint, different perception. They'll have different way of living, lifestyle. And because of these, they will, in a way, conserve these type of lifestyles through either stories that they tell for generations, certain type of epics that we have, and then it can also be conserved through different type of songs and poetry, drawings, and dance. So therefore, one form of conserving it is through aphorism, a sort of a form of aphorism, where different nations and countries and communities they form these aphorisms on the basis of their traditional values and lifestyle. And since different community, even in the same country, we have different people, and they have different part of that country have different traditional values and different lifestyle, and accordingly they will provide different examples. So therefore, aphorisms are different for different communities and different countries, and therefore it also makes aphorism a very good method or means to understand one's culture, because in a very short writings, one can observe many different aspects of a particular tradition or a particular community and the lifestyles that they live or were living. Okay, so while using aphorism, let me go back here. Tambe ni ling nang pechu chekap ling milte nye de batang shen la chajo ki nam shu chenpe silver yang chekin yu. So, what does that mean? It means while using aphorisms in conversation and discussion, it provides a boost in one's rhetorical skills and makes the conversation pleasant to hear. It makes it pleasant to hear. There are many different ways to make a conversation more pleasant. One way is using the aphorisms. Other way is using idioms. And then there are times when you also, if you can use a bit of poetry while speaking. And then there's also the tone. There's also the tone, and then the flow in which you speak, and the words that you are using, which can make it both impactful and pleasant to hear. For example, using certain academic related terms makes you more credible in a particular field, especially if you're speaking on a particular field and you have an ample amount of terms that are related to this field in the academic prospect. So you see that using those words makes you appear more credible. And it also provides an impact while stating points in a discussion, because these are, as we know, these are the knowledge of the previous generation. So many of which are given as an example, because things have been repeatedly happening in that manner. So therefore, using it also makes someone. So this is something that is more. This is something that I have observed in our Tibetan community. That is, if you're able to integrate these aphorisms, things that you say seems to be more credible in the opinion of the one that are listening. So therefore, it also provides a certain type of impact on what you're speaking. Okay, so this is the first aphorism that we did. So it's an advice. So as here it's stated, it either functions as providing an example or as an advice. And here we clearly see that it's an advice. Okay, now this second aphorism. So we'll try to finish everything, but let's see. Ka we yang sir mani pe matang dewe thang sir ala thala ins. Ka we yang sir mani pe matang dewe thang sir ala thala in. Let me repeat this last one more time. Ka we yang sir mani pe matang dewe thang sir ala thala in. So what does it mean? It means reciting prayers on dangerous cliffs and singing songs on pleasant fields. So what does this mean? This aphorism gives us an example of our behavior. So that's a very general, when we say R, it's a general R, not specific. During our hard times, we pray and remember the protector or savior. But during the happy times, we forget about praying and remember the we forget to remember the savior and protector. And in here, it could be taken as anything, not necessarily being prayer. It could be asking for someone who helps us during our hard times. But when it comes to a good time, we forget those who help us. So this is an example providing to those people who usually do not remember being kind or good to the people that we depend upon in our hard and difficult times. So that could be the understanding too here. Okay. Example. Nga zo peje ni mitse na chö dang gewe le chagyu tadung lame kalop namni tu ma to chenge mare. Dini kawe yang sa mani pe matang dewe tangsa ala thala yimbare. Let me repeat this again. Nganso pelcher ni mitse nang chö dang gewe le chagyu tadung lame kalop namni tu ma to chenge mare. Dini kawe yang sa mani pe matang dewe tangsa ala thala yimbare. So what does this mean? It means that most of us in life only recall the teachings of the Guru about doing virtuous deeds and dharma when we are suffering. This is indeed reciting prayers on dangerous cliffs and singing songs on pleasant fields. So this, as you can see, okay, so Pema, we know it's the lotus. So Mani Pema refers to the prayer of Avalokiteshvara, but in general, it just refers to any sort of prayer. So, but the actual meaning here doesn't constitute only to prayers. It means remembering, understanding, and reminding oneself about the moral values, the things that are right and righteous to do, and thinking about not inflicting suffering upon others as we do not wish it upon ourselves, things like this. So in more general, it means all of these. But if you want to take it as a subjective in your practice, then you can just substitute it as something that you do as a practice. So dangerous cliffs refer to those moments of life when we are saddened, when we are faced with times of suffering and we're at a dark place. So that is the meaning of the dangerous cliff here. And pleasant field means the time when we are happy, when we are enjoying, when we are in a more pleasant circumstance. So in those times, we're just carefree. We don't think about preparing or things like this. So therefore, it's an example, and we see the examples that were provided there. Okay, so that's one. Now, the next aphorism is Nang la kama chamna chila matu. Let me repeat this. Nang la kama chamna chila matu. Mitu. Nang la kama chamna chila mitu. What does this mean? It means if there is no harmony in home, there will be no prosperity outside. Okay, so this aphorism is a form of advice. It's used as advice, saying that if one doesn't establish a truly harmonious and loving environment at home, then no matter what they do outside will not be prosperous and fulfilling. Sometimes prosperous and fulfilling should be seen beyond the facade and the image that is projected, because fulfillment is not just things that are materialistically there. One may think that being materialistically able to gain a lot in terms of materialism is constituted as success. Maybe, who knows? That could be a definition for some. But then at the end of the day, it's how we feel about ourselves, and if we're actually happy, that determines if we're happy. So this is what the fulfilling means here. So this is what fulfilling and prosperous means. Not only prosperous materialistically, but if that makes someone happy, then that is prosperous for them. But here, more like being fulfilled. So what does this advice? These are advice given to those people who, though able to provide things materialistically for their family, and they may seem to be materialistically prospering, but in terms of the real fulfillment, that is of the mind, they are simply lacking, and they just substitute it by saying they simply substitute it by telling themselves that at least I take care of the materialistic aspect of things. So trying to console themselves, which if they can do, that's a very good thing, but usually it doesn't work. Anyway, so the example, 这是啦当空给斗 is a very good word. It means partner. Tao means partner. Because we have many words in Tibetan for partner. If it's a male, we say kyoga. If it's a female, we say namo. That's more original dialect from where I am. We call it namo. Some pronounce it as numo. And we have keme. Then we have the word sanda. So Tao is a very good word for partner. It means companion. Tao means the one who, it's more or less telling if you talk in a more exaggerated manner, it's the one who is the other half of someone. So Tao, the one that is like a companion that makes things complete. So that's a more exaggerated manner of saying it. So 这些拉当空给Tao你偏执 kuzi chela koni par chamtu ya yebe chida nangi chawa kan ya pemel hundu retu tena ngar gembatsu nang la kachamna chila nang la kama chamna chila termidu sewa tenno. Let me repeat this. 这是拉堂，看见到我你天尊可是切啦，看你拍，成团样约别，切到那个桥我看一样，北面轮住热度，天哪，我根本是难了，看嘛成呐，切了团面住些话，天喏。Okay, what does it mean? It means Tashila and his partner were both respectful towards each other and also have a very harmonious relationship. Because of this, all of their work inside or outside accomplished without much effort. The saying of the elders in the old days that if there is no harmony in the home, there will be no prosperity outside is indeed true. Okay, so this is the example. So this is how you use some of these aphorisms. You look at the actual circumstance that you're using it in, the kind of statement that you're stating, and the circumstance in which you're stating them, and then you try to understand the situation, and then what you do is that you connect it to a particular meaning of an aphorism, and then you can use it in that particular circumstance or situation, and it fits. As you can see, when I add these, I'm not only conveying an information, but I can also open up a new dimension to the words that I need to speak. Now I'm not only talking what has happened. I'm not only talking about things that have happened. I'm also able to state them as a fact with the use of these aphorisms by providing examples in some ways, or in some other case, you can use these as aphorism to provide advice to people. Okay, so the next one is namdo mawe mite ringbo mitso. Namdo mawe mite ringbo mitso. Namdo mawe mite ringbo matso. Namdo, usually the thought, it means the thought, but the meaning changes due to different statements. So here, like I said, many times I have said this, the words, they have a meaning by themselves, but it changes according to the statement that it has been used in. So individually, the word has the authority to express their meaning independently, but when they come as a part of a statement, they do get influenced by other words. And so here, namdo does not only does not represent all the thoughts, but it only constitutes a specific type of thoughts or feelings, that is suspicion or superstition. And here, namdo mawe mi, this is an adjective. So an overly suspicious or superstitious person, that is namdo mawe mi. So if you only say namdo, that will be a noun. But since it is namdo mawe, so it changes into an adjective which describes a person. So namdo mawe mi, an overly suspicious or superstitious person does not live for long. So one who is overly cautious, one who is always doubting something, always suspicious of people and environment around them, do not live long. That's the that's the meaning of this particular aphorism. So this aphorism is used as advice, saying that one should not be bound by unneeded suspicion and superstitions. In a way, everything is usually exaggerated by the mind or thoughts and does not exist as it appears to be. So this is just a small line that I have placed in between. This, however, is not advising someone to be naive and careless, but only addresses those who are suffering from these habits. So important thing. So this particular aphorism doesn't address those people who are simply careful, meaning that those who are not overly cautious, but they do they do things with a very acceptable limit of caution, because one cannot be truly careless and naive every time, or else they'll bump their nose multiple times. Sometimes simply more than just bumping their nose. They might just lose that nose. So therefore, it doesn't mean that one should not be cautious, that one should be naive and careless, but to not overly exaggerate the situation, or to not overthink about things which are not there. Like I said, to use discretion and to deduce things through the logic and valid cognition, and to not let one's mind go wild. So therefore, this is simply used to give someone advice, direct or indirectly advising someone. Sometimes you can directly say this to them. Sometimes you can use it as an indirect advice, meaning that you don't necessarily address it towards someone, but you just say it in a room where you are addressing it to someone, and then you feel that they will infer it. They will through inference, they will understand this. Okay, so example, namdo mawe mi te ringbu mitso setoni mi namdo mangbu yuke la semte tang toba mangse sem midena lu kala cho. Let me repeat this. Namdo mawe mi te ringbu mitso setoni mi namdo mangbu yuke la semte tang toba mangse sem midena lu kala cho. So what does this mean? It means that the reason for saying that an overly suspicious or superstitious person does not live for long is because an overly suspicious person has many doubts and worries. They doubt everything. Even if someone is being good to them, they think that there might be some ulterior motives or something. Therefore, how is it possible? So kala is used as how it's possible. So if you remember, we have studied this in the other particles in previous lessons. Therefore, how is it possible for the body to sustain when the mind is unwell? So if the mind is unwell, it's not possible for the body to sustain, because if the mind is not working properly, the person cannot take good care of their body, the physical aspect. So they get sick and they're unwell. So this is an example of the usage. Or you can directly use this to give someone an example, advice, saying that, for example, let me take one. This simply this. Let me see this. Let me make it 60 so that it looks nice. Okay, so I hope this, well, let's make it 70. Okay, so for example, so this is an example for the aphorism. One can say, kera boba satra du be namto mawe mithe namto mawe mithe ringbo mitso or ringbo matso. Both of these are negations, so you can use either. So kera toba satra dobe namto mawe mithe ringbo matso, which means that you are very cautious or very doubtful person, and because of this, you should know that a person that is overly cautious will not sustain or will not live for long. So here, simply providing an example. Now let us go to the next one. So it's Jangbu Jangche Masina Jangbu Lumbo Gyurabye. Let me repeat this. Jangbu Jangche Masina Jangbu Lumbo Gyurabye. 장부 장치 masina 장부 lumbu gyurabyu. So rab means a history. So we have Gelrab, which means a story or a past of a nation. So Gyurab means there are instances or there are examples or there are history of someone transforming or becoming. Lumpo means fool. Jangbo means clever. But here it doesn't mean clever in a good way. It means in a cunning and scheming way. One who always schemes to deceive someone, to take advantage of others. So that is the meaning of clever here. So it says, if one is too clever, that is in cunning, being cunning and scheming against other people, and that they do not control their schemes, meaning that if they do not have control over their mindset or their habits, then at the end they will become a fool, meaning that at the end there are instances that there are instances where people who thought that they were clever, people who thought that they were always 2 or 3 steps ahead, became the laughing stock, a joke, a fool at the end. So this aphorism is used as advice, saying that if one is too clever in cunning and scheming way, and that they do not control their schemes, then at the end they will become a fool. So this situation makes them a target. So that particular situation where they become the fool, that particular so in that particular circumstance, that person becomes the target of disdain by others and becomes a laughing stock of the mass. Okay, so gelbu lumpu rikpa chen la nyenda tsuki deda sung jangbu jangchu masina jangbu lumpu gyurab yu. Gelbu lumpu and lunpu are different. Lumpu means minister, lunpu means fool. Gelbu lumpu rikpa chen la nyenda tsuki deda sung jangbu jangchu masina jangbu lumpu gyurab yu. So what does this mean? It means the king said thus as a warning to the clever minister. So rikpa has two meanings, one more positive, one more negative meaning. The positive meaning is this the wise minister. The more negative is the cunning and the scheming, the clever and the cunning minister. So the king said thus as a warning to the clever minister, if one is too clever in cunning and scheming others, scheming plans against others, and that they do not control their scheme, then at the end they will become a fool. So here we see that we have used this aphorism in a direct way, where the king spoke it to the minister to directly provide the warning to the minister, saying that the king knows about his scheming ways and that he should control it. So it's advice, in this case, advice more in a sense warning the person. Okay, now the next one is Rila tamena tu kelpoche. Let me repeat this. Rila tamena tu kelpoche. Rila tamena tu kelpoche. On the mountain without tigers, the monkey acts like the king. So this aphorism gives us an example. Capable person in a country or an organization, then hypocrites and phony people take control or command. So it tells us that if in a particular setting, be it an association, organization, community, it could be a nation, if there isn't a capable person or competent person who's taking in charge, then those who are hypocrites, those who are phony, those who are fake people, who do not have the capabilities of doing this particular thing, they come forward and then they take command. So here, the example of the tiger is given to the competent and the capable person, The example of monkey is given to the phony and hypocritical people, those pretentious people who pretend that they can, but in reality, they cannot. And the mountain is given as an example of a country or a community or an organization or an association. 땡투 개컴 기내다니 하정교왕 공만남니 주연탕충 테니 텁시 메바레 릴라타메나 뚜 길포체 땡투 길컴 기내다니 하정교왕 공만남니 주연탕충 테니 텁시 메바레 릴라타메나 뚜 길포체. So what does this mean? Tengtu means these days. Gelkam means kingdom. Netang means situation. Kyo means pathetic or poor. Juntang means talent or competency. Tafshi means without any, there's no helping it. It's hopeless. Okay, so these days, even though the situations are pathetic, situations in the kingdom are pathetic, the heads are without talents. Even though the situations are pathetic, the heads who are working upstairs are pathetic, meaning that they have no talents. There is no helping there. There is no helping it. As on the mountain without tigers, the monkey acts like the king, meaning that since there's no one capable enough to take charge, those incompetent, hypocritical people, those phony people will take charge and command to lead. And so the situation will be more and more pathetic and dire until everything collapses. Okay, the next, so therefore, this is given as an example rather than advising. It's already, because there is no more advice that can be provided because the situation has already gone past the limit of helping. So there's no helping there. The only thing one can do is learn from it as an example. So therefore, it's an example. Okay. Now the next one is Marab Tosar Shana Juenge Longba Khang. Let me repeat this. Marab Tosar Shana Juenge Longba Khang. Marab Tosar Shana Juenge Longba Khang. This means if a thug is given a high position, then the country is filled with degenerates. The country will be filled with degenerates. Okay, so what does this mean? It means this aphorism gives us an example. So this is also an example, sometimes hypothetical example, sometimes actual example. So gives us an example that a country run by thug or a degenerate will only be filled with degenerates and thug and will become lawless and corrupt. So a country or a community or an organization, an association, or a place which is run by thug or degenerate will only make this place more suitable for their existence. So they will create more thug, more degenerates, so that everything becomes lawless and corrupt. Okay. Minge namla wangcha namya top miru kangla sena marab tosar shana minge namla wangcha namya top miru kangla sena marab tosar shana juenge longba khang. Degenerates should never come in power because if a thug is given a high position, then the country is filled or will be filled with degenerates. Okay, so now the final aphorism is Kibo rangi machena dubo shenge tongyure. Let me repeat this. Kibo rangi machena dubo shenge tongyure. Kibo rangi machena dubo shenge tongyure. It means if you do not make yourself happy, others are there to cause you suffering. Okay. This aphorism advises, so it's an advice. So advises us by stating that one should find happiness within oneself and do things that make them happy. Of course, without harming others. So one should make themselves happy, but without causing suffering for others. Because if they do not do so, there are always others who want to cause suffering for others. This does not suggest that everyone out there is there to hurt you or harm you, but that the true source of happiness, even though arising from an external agent, will depend on the internal state of oneself and one's attitude towards it. So it means that the happiness or joy that one feels, though it may come internally or externally through external agents, one should understand that it will only be received the way one wants to receive it. Meaning that there are instances when the greatest form of compassion could be viewed or received because of one being overly cautious or one holding a great hatred towards someone. The greatest form of compassion will also be seen as something very something very improper or something that is very insulting to oneself. And like I said, this is because of the brain making up stuff and things. So therefore, one should find that particular peace and harmony within and make oneself happy without causing trouble. So there is difference between feeling happy and then just doing anything one wants to do, because everything has consequences. So thinking about the consequences, making oneself happy by not causing others suffering. So, kongi tuta to kipo tangkabu nga duikin to kongi sondang la kipo rangi machena to bo shengi tongyo de che song song. Kongi tuta to kipo tangkabu nga duikin to kongi sondang la kipo rangi machena to bo shengi tongyo de che song song. He or she is always happy and joyful. According to what she said, if you do not make yourself happy, others are there to cause you suffering. So this is the example for the final aphorism. Like I said, there aren't countless, but there are simply so many aphorisms. If you discuss it throughout the day and night, the whole day and night, will not be able to finish it. But here I have provided the ones which are more commonly used, the ones which are more, the examples of which are more easier to understand. Some aphorisms may be too subjected to a particular region that if you do not know how they live, the things that they use in their day-to-day life, and the names given to those things, you will not understand the reference. So these, as you can see, all of these are easy to understand, very relatable, and the most important thing is are used quite frequently in conversation. So that is the reason why I have introduced only these aphorisms today. So those who are interested, you can check them online, and if you feel that that you don't understand, you can simply post that in the group, and then we can discuss it. Okay, now the new words. Simtil, which means worry. Tao, which means partner. Namto here, in this case, it's suspicion, superstition, but usually it's just thoughts. Simba means Zhangbo, clever. Could be in saying like, oh, you're a clever person. Oh, that's very clever of you. But sometimes also, oh, that was clever of him, but in a cunning way. Lumbo, fool. Degenerate. Means degenerate. Netang, situation. So this is a phrase. Means without doing much effort, without putting much effort. Means accomplish. So actually means accomplishing spontaneously. But the entire thing has a meaning of accomplishment without much effort. Lumbo means minister. So we have different ministers. Okay, so now we go to the idioms. So the idiom, the first one is ngate chite. Ngate chite. Ngate chite. Which means look forward and back. To look forward and back, making it has a more direct understanding, which is, for example, if you're walking somewhere, especially in a very busy, if you're walking near a busy intersection or road, then one should always look front and back, so forward and back before crossing. So that is the more direct understanding. The more inferential, the more figurative understanding of this is to say that one should always look at every possible aspect or perspective before doing something. Okay, so this idiom means to look at every possibility and situation related and to be careful before making any decisions. That's more inferential, more figurative message here. Understanding. The more direct is to look front and back before crossing a road. Okay. Mitena lega kang chenai da. Tadung tao chu kang shi ma che kong la ma te chi te che gu. Mitena lega kang chenai da. Tadung tao chu kang shi ma che kong la ma te chi te che gu. In life, whatever you are doing or before making any decision, it is important to look forward and back, meaning it is always important to look at every possibility, every situation, every perspective, looking at through every perspective, every angle, and then thinking about the circumstance that something that might arise. But that too in a very limited way, that is to analyze these things and think about these things along the understanding of things that will happen logically, and not to worry about the impossibilities that might happen, or possibilities that are almost impossibilities. The second example, Pongbu dalam ka. Pongbu dalam ka. So the second idiom is Pongbu dalam ka. Pongbu means donkey, dalam means the path of the horse. Donkey blocking the path of the horse. This idiom means to throw away something good for something worse. It can be associated with an opportunity, doing something less important and throwing away a more important task, etc. Taring lega madrower nang tu deokap lekung la mina keta chenpo shi lemne lemi yong la lemi yong lata tredu ngone taring pongbu talam ka ta trasong. Taring lega madrower nang tu deokap lekung la mina keta chenpo shi lemne lemi yong lata tredu ngone taring a famous person came to our office and gave a gift to every employee there, while I took a leave. It is truly turned out to be like the donkey blocking the horse. So this can be understood in this way. That is, the person took leave. Most probably a leave that is the number of days they can take leave, and they might have thought they will take leave today, And it might, so the situation might not be such that one was sick or anything, just simply taking a leave. And then while taking that leave, one found out that there was a celebrity or someone famous that came to their office and also gave them a gift personally. So the taking the opportunity to take the reserved day of leave to simply take the leave is understood as the donkey, and the situation that they got to meet the famous person and receive a gift personally should be understood as the horse. And blocking the path means creating a circumstance or creating a situation which made the which made the better outcome to not occur. Sometimes we also use it for food. Like, for example, if we were outside and then we thought like, oh, okay, I'm a little bit hungry, and then you end up eating something outside. But then when you returned home, a very delicious food was prepared. Then you would say, the donkey. It is like the donkey blocking the path of the horse, meaning that in this manner also quite literally, because since you have eaten outside, you no longer have the path for the food to go in. So this is the second idiom. Okay, so this is it for today. We have introduced some idioms, as some more popular idioms, and yes, so we have studied aphorisms during the entire course. We have studied introduced idioms, and we have introduced particles, particles, phrases, adverbs, and other particles. And all of this should be integrated in one's understanding of this language, that is, of the Tibetan language, and then add them to your own inventory of words and particles and structuring. And so if you have the basic understanding of forming a statement, you can add these to make it a more elaborate statement, to make it a statement that does not speak simply as to say, how are you? I'm fine, but rather adding examples, adding aphorisms, adding idioms. On top of that, using some particles to not only say that you are doing fine, but how you're actually doing. Giving example to what degree you're doing well. Or if you're not doing well, providing examples by aphorisms or other way to give them the understanding of in what way you're not feeling well. So in those cases, idioms and aphorisms are going to be very important. And then the particles, definitely the particles, are also going to be very important. And then we also learn some new words throughout the course, so you can repeat them and revise them. So if you take everything that we have learned throughout the 15 courses, some of which may be more difficult concepts, some of which may be much easier, and then add them to your basic understanding of structuring of statement, simply adding them and experimenting, seeing how they appear, how they function, and then to see how it changes your daily conversation. Like I said, it's more like introducing more and more structuring concepts of speaking, rather than repeating one sentence again and again. So you can make your own sentence now, because intermediate level, you already know how to make basic sentence. Add these and see how it changes, and then use them to see what message you're conveying. In this way, you'll be able to make your sentences longer and conversation more interesting. And imagine learning few aphorisms and idioms and using them. those will make the conversation so much more interesting. And you'll be able to understand the traditional aspects of Tibetans, learning about different regional dialects through the aphorisms and the living style, sometimes also give an example as animals that are native to Tibet. So very interesting way to learn about the tradition also through aphorisms. Okay, so this is it for today. Do we have any questions? If you have questions, I will take questions. Do we have questions regarding today's lesson? It was more about the aphorisms, so if you have questions regarding okay. Okay, so let me see if I can copy this. So this aphorism that we have seen during this is the aphorism that we have used during the announcement. So this one. Okay, so let me just cut down the ones which are not needed, and then we can start with this. Okay, and yeah, I think this is it. These two. Okay, so let me see if I can make them. Okay, so I think it's because of these that unnecessary space that it was taken. Okay, so this one. Tamsan shebe semka. Tamsan shebe semka. So this one. Tamsan shebe semka. Here we are using the sixth grammatical case, which is a relative case that shows a relation between the action of speaking good word and being happy. So here what we do is that using this, we don't talk about this. We don't talk about the circumstances of speaking. It simply says that doing the action of speaking makes happy. So here, what we have is the relative case, which shows relation between the result, that is being happy, and the action of speaking. So here we are not particularly talking about what is done to others, because we're not using the third grammatical case. Using the particle of third grammatical case, we have this ability to show that the sort of saying that this action has caused this result. But this is the sixth grammatical case, so therefore we simply say that speaking good words makes happy. And here the one who is being happy is the speaker. And this is due to the sixth grammatical case, that we are not focusing much on the circumstance or the result of the action. We're speaking more about relation between speaking and the situation of the one who speaks here. So there is no longer anything, in a sense, putting focus on the circumstance or the situation due to action. But here we have the third grammatical case, and this is third grammatical case not as the usage of agent or the subject case. This is more like the reasoning case. So it says that doing the action of speaking causes one to be happy. But here, since it's more like providing reasoning, as well as, in a sense, it's also focusing more on the action of speaking, it also gives an inferential understanding that we're talking about someone other than self. So it's more inferential, not directly stated anywhere. But using these two particles, the third grammatical case particle and the sixth grammatical case particle, provides us with this type of more inferential flexibility that tells us that the first one refers to self, the second one refers to others as a circumstance. So therefore, the first one, the speaker of the good word has a happiness. Tamsan she pe Simka. The listener of the good word is happy. So the second one addresses the listener. The first one addresses the speaker. So I hope this was made clear. Okay, so I guess this is it for questions. If you have more questions, make sure that you send it in the group and I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. So with this, we're done with this semester, this entire semester of the intermediate course on conversation. So we had 15 courses. So please try to revisit them, try to rewatch the video, or just check the notes that were sent so that you can revise. And yes, so with this, we have successfully and most wonderfully completed our final course for this semester. About the next semester and everything will be announced later when decided, so that you can check it in the later date. And that's so. So this is it. Thank you very much. I hope that you benefited as much as I enjoyed teaching this course. And please use this into your conversation. It'll make your conversation much more dynamic and interesting. Yes, but sometimes if you use it too much, it can also make it seem a bit exaggerated also. Not that it will, but since it's not the normal, it's not the normal thing to do, to overly use the aphorisms and idioms, but it's a very good way of speaking. The old people, I mean, the few generations ago did that, but as the time passed, tradition just went with the time, and we lost few. We gained few, we lost few, both people and values. Okay, so this is it for today, and thank you very much for joining in. I hope everyone to have a wonderful morning, evening, and afternoon wherever you are. And so tashitele, and then please check those announcements later so you can get information regarding everything that will happen later. Other than that, thank you very much, and I'll see you. I'll see every one of you later. That's all. Tashitele.